there, and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm Blondie.
And I'm T.
This month, we are focusing on love, where T has been very creative in coming up with other ways to say love. I'm going old school with love, romance, and passion. So our episodes have some element of triggered love in them.
Look at you always trying to one-up me.
It's not one-upping, that's lateral.
Okay, I just want our listeners to know that I have the giggles because we have started this like 12 times already.
And I will take full responsibility. I've currently lost my mind.
Yes, she has. And I'm just going, what is happening right now?
There's a reason why I've lost my mind.
There's a reason why I've lost mine as well, but no excuse. Don't be using excuses, Blondie.
You know what? It's our show. I can excuse it all I want.
So let's talk about something you can actually talk about. Are you excited about your upcoming romantic trip?
I am excited. It's our anniversary trip.
Happy anniversary.
It's not the city of love. It's more like the city of food because we love food. So there you go.
Well, if you love food and you're in the right city for it, then yeah, by all means, knock yourselves out.
I do love Italian food.
Me too. And their food, you know, Italy's beautiful because you can walk anywhere and you'll smell the food cooking. It's everywhere. Like it's in the air. It's so wonderful.
It's fabulous. So I've been talking to my friends and, you're wrapping things up, getting ready to go. And people, have a great time. Have a great time. We don't leave for a few days. And those few days before you go anywhere are chaos. I mean, it's laundry, it's packing, it's making sure that the pets are taken care of, making sure that the house is taken care of, making sure you have money, making sure the bills are I mean, by the time you go on vacation, I need a vacation.
That's right. I know exactly how that goes. And it's a lot of work just to go and do no work.
I mean, and I love my husband to death, and he will say, do you need anything? And in my heart and soul, I want to say, yes, absolutely. Can you do this?
But he can't.
And I want to say it's because maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Oh, wait a minute. A little bit of a control freak?
Okay, it's my anniversary month. Leave me alone.
My goodness. Okay, let's go. Let's go with little bit.
Okay, I'm a little bit more than a little bit of a control freak. And I just want it done right.
Of course you do. I understand this completely.
They try.
So in other words, he ain't doing nothing.
I have to give him very explicit instructions. I needed him to go pick up the dog food. Here's the confirmation. Go to this store. Here's the address.
That's
just
right.
Hand it to him. Don't say anything. Just hand it to him.
Just smile and hand them the note.
Yes, it's already paid for. Just hand them the note.
Take it off the pin off your shirt and give it to the nice lady.
That's right. And don't forget to say thank you.
That's right.
Remember your manners.
Good manners are everything. No, I hear you. Sometimes it's a lot more work trying to explain it than just doing it your darn self.
And I'm sure all of our female listeners out there will probably agree.
Well, there's probably some males who also have a male partner. They probably agree as well.
Oh, that's very true. And I think on some level they do it on purpose. They don't have to do anything.
You know what? That playing stupid, I'm onto that game. I am so onto it.
In an effort to get things done, probably ignore it more than I should.
Yeah, it's part of the agreement. It's the unspoken part of the agreement. You do everything and I let you. That's the agreement.
Because if I try and do it, you're going to tell me I'm doing it wrong.
That's right. So yeah, it's crazy, but they definitely get away with murder sometimes. I will say that.
Oh, how ironic with our podcast.
There you go. Probably the most true thing we've said all this love month.
A true love statement.
Yes, it is.
So speaking of love month, what do we have for this episode?
Well, this one, as you know, I was really trying to find a different type of story, but it is still about love, triggered love. And this one's a doozy. It's a couple of good twists in here. Are you
Ooh,
ready?
I do love a good twist.
Me too.
Bring it on, sister.
Okay, here we go. Let's let the grim begin. Todd and Amy Mullis were a married couple who operated a successful farm together in Delaware County, Iowa. The farm was their whole lives, and together they accomplished quite a successful business. It took a lot of hard work to keep it going, but they were very dedicated, and it paid off. The Mullises had 3 children together, with their oldest, Tristan, 13 years old. Tristan was a great kid. Some would even say he was a daddy's boy because he loved being around his father and always helped him with farm chores. Everything the Mullis family did together revolved around building up their farm. So this sounds like the quintessential setup for farm living. Dad and mom working together and grooming their eldest to take over the business someday. Probably every farm father's dream.
I would agree with that and say that any family business, I'm pretty sure that's the dream to pass it on.
Yeah, I would agree. So on a cold November day in 2018, with snow lightly dusting the ground, Tristan had been helping his father like he usually did in the hog barn. When he went to a nearby shed for something, he happened upon his mother lying on the ground with a 4-tined corn rake plunged into her back.
Ouch. And every time I think of like a corn rake or that, the 3 or 4 ton, is that what you call it? Tined fork. I always think of that painting, American Gothic. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I sure do.
And I just learned recently that I thought it was a husband and wife. It's actually a father and daughter.
I've never heard that before. A father and daughter. I think this is always portrayed as husband and wife.
No, I saw an article on it. It was father and daughter.
But doesn't she have like gray hair?
It's more maybe blondish.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look that up now.
You know what? Do. Just so you can verify with me.
I'll do it. I dare you. Bring it on.
That's right.
So Tristan ran to get his dad, and together they loaded his mother's body into their truck and raced to the hospital. Tristan had his mother's head in his lap and was desperately trying to comfort her while she was bleeding out and barely alive. There were pictures following this of this poor kid's clothing he had been wearing during that ride, and there was blood all over his t-shirt. My heart breaks for him because I can't even imagine how traumatized he was.
I mean, just to find his mother, number one, and know he can't save her, that's sad.
On the way to the hospital, Todd Mullis called 911 and told the operator that he was bringing his injured wife, Amy, to the hospital because, as he described it, quote, "She fell on a fork. I had to take the damn fork out of her," end quote. He said in a very dramatically high-pitched voice. He sounded like he was breathing rapidly and was extremely rattled. Quote, "She's non-responsive and it's just me and my son," end quote.
Isn't there a thing about, and maybe it's because I see it on TV, don't remove the object, rule number 1?
I thought there was, because as soon as you take something out of a person's body, then it's going to bleed out.
Exactly. That whatever's in there is kind of plugging it up.
Right. So, yeah, that's interesting. So at this point, the 911 operator asked Todd to pull over to begin CPR on his wife. The operator asked him if he was comfortable doing that, and he said he would do anything at this point to save her. So while the operator remained on the line, Todd followed her instructions and began performing CPR. The operator was counting for him while he compressed on Amy's chest. While doing this, Todd was breathing very hard and mumbling the whole time, assumedly desperately muttering words of concern. But as hard as Todd tried, his efforts went unanswered. 39-year-old Amy Mullis was pronounced dead upon arrival at the ER in a nearby hospital in Manchester. And this was, in fact, the very same emergency room where Amy used to work as a nurse. Now, visualize this entire CPR scene and how chaotic and horrible it must have been with Amy on her son's lap and Todd performing compressions. This will be an important fact later in the story.
Like I said earlier, love a plot twist.
Me too. So when police arrived at the hospital, they actually commented and noted how extremely traumatized Tristan appeared after finding his mother in such a grisly fashion and then having her pass away while on his lap, covered in blood, and then covering him in blood. So even as a grown woman, this might be too much for me to handle. I definitely need a timeout in life after something like this.
And I think that's kind of an obvious observation. He was extremely traumatized. You think?
Of course, they're expecting him to be traumatized. At least it sounds to me like when police make a note about it, it had to be real, real bad.
Yeah.
According to Todd, there was a red storage barn on their farm, and this is where Tristan had discovered his mother. The corn rake was still deeply embedded into her back when she was found. Todd claimed that Amy had allegedly fallen on this old, gnarly, dirty, and rusty-looking rake that had tines that were about 8 to 10 inches long. When Tristan ran to get him, Todd rushed over it and with brutal strength was able to pull the fork from his wife's body. Then he immediately put her in the truck to get help and try to save her life. Now, for those of us city folk who may not have an understanding of farm life, as a city folk myself, I've always had a fascination with farm living. But in my head, I've only focused on the positives, like hanging out and taking care of the farm animals. It's going to be all wonderful like Charlotte's Web, right? And, you get to hang out with cool creatures. One big happy family. But us city folk don't have a clue as to all the hard work and the danger that goes into running a farm.
I always picture a farm and using one of those forks to move the hay around in the horse stalls. That's what I picture.
But this is actually, it looks like a pitchfork, but it's curved almost like, I would say almost like in an L shape, I guess, to help with the corn, to pull in the corn.
So that was specifically a corn
rake.
Okay.
So the tines don't go straight up like a pitchfork. They're curved almost like an L.
And that's even stranger.
Yeah. The angle at that would be really hard to get it to plunge into somebody's back.
Exactly.
But in this particular farming community where the Mullises live, farming accidents are quite common. There's lots of things that can go wrong, and people get injured often in many strange ways. When you're dealing with machines, heavy equipment, and farm animals, you never know what to expect. So initially, nobody in this farm community was shocked about Amy possibly falling on a corn rake. And to make this even easier to believe, Amy had just had a surgery a few days before this incident, so she was on heavy medications, which may have contributed to her not being so clear-headed and her balance being off. And, I guess that could be maybe sort of plausible.
I don't know, especially now that you've explained it's L shape. I just have a hard time with her falling on this thing backwards. Why is she out in the barn if she just had surgery and she's heavily medicated?
This comes up later that apparently she still had to work very hard on this farm.
Okay.
But after examining Amy's body and the deep and grisly wounds on her back, the doctors at the hospital had lots of questions that needed answering because her injuries did not line up with her falling on a corn rake. This particular corn rake only had 4 tines, and somehow Amy ended up with 6 deep puncture wounds in her back. There was no way that Amy could have fallen on the corn rake and then gotten up with the same capacity and fell on a portion of the rake a second time. So this immediately goes from an accident to a full-blown homicide investigation. And I'm guessing that since he took her to her old place of employment where she was known and loved, they went all extra for her, which is great for her, but not so great for her killer.
I would have thought he would take her someplace else.
He didn't think that one through.
No.
So immediately, Todd Mullis becomes a person of interest. But after detectives interviewed Todd and his son, Tristan made it very clear to detectives that he had been with his dad all day, and his father was never once out of his sight. So this statement instantly cleared Todd Mullis from any wrongdoing.
I don't know. In all these episodes we've done, it always seems like they go after the spouse first.
And I think most of the time it usually is the spouse, but we will see.
This is where you get that sound like the creepy "here it comes."
Do I make my voice all creepy? But we shall see.
That's how you normally talk. What are you talking about?
I know. I actually have to clean it up for the show, but this is my normal voice.
All right, troll.
I know. I sound like I live under a bridge.
Right.
Now the investigation has to go into Amy's background to try to find a motive for anyone else who may have wanted to see her dead. It wasn't too difficult for investigators to discover a couple of indiscretions after looking into Amy's private life. There were at least 2 extramarital affairs Amy had been involved in, and an affair about 5 years prior to this incident. But that affair had been discovered by Todd and promptly broken off. But then another affair was discovered. This was a current fling between Amy and a man by the name of Jerry. With these discoveries, Amy's sexual indiscretions were being carefully considered for potential suspects who may have wanted to murder her. Yikes. One day it's all sexy fun, and the next, your girl ends up dead and you're a murder suspect. What are the chances?
Pretty high, I'd imagine. And what happened to the family farming dream?
You mean for her?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was ever truly her dream. It's starting to sound like maybe it was more Todd's dream. When Todd was initially interviewed by detectives, he was asked to describe his marriage, and he casually said the marriage was actually really good because they were together all the time. But investigators had already learned that this was not the truth.
Being together all the time?
Right? There's your first clue.
Does not make a really good marriage.
No, it does not. Amy's phone had revealed text to a friend that she was nervous that her husband was becoming suspicious of her new affair. Amy's texts were found where she was telling her friend, quote, "Why should I stay unhappy for the rest of my life? I'm strong, so I should just leave and be on my own." End quote.
Ooh.
Oh, no. In fact, Amy had been unhappy for quite some time. Life on the farm was hard and unforgiving, and the truth behind Todd and Amy's marriage was that it had been falling apart for years. Amy felt trapped in her marriage, sometimes feeling like she was treated like a slave, free labor for Todd. But Todd didn't want Amy to leave and was desperately trying to hold the marriage together. He was even willing to do marriage therapy or whatever it took so that she wouldn't leave. But after he had discovered her cheating 5 years prior, he had kept a close eye on her. Perhaps too close, because it was described as borderline stalking. And that would seriously get on my nerves. I couldn't live that way. She definitely should have left when he started obsessing.
And if he's hawk-eyeing her, how did he miss the start of another affair? Just asking.
Well, I don't know. She must have been really good at it. So, don't hate the player, hate the game.
All right, old school lady.
I know that reference is so old.
So old.
But it seemed appropriate. So now Amy was considering filing for divorce and moving out. This would mean she would, of course, get half of the farm that they both worked very hard on, and a big money payout that Todd did not feel she deserved. Between Todd's jealousy and his greed, he was becoming a very dangerously desperate man. And desperation reeks of bad choices.
Among other things.
The police did their due diligence and did investigate whether or not another person could have come onto the farm and murdered Amy, but there was no evidence to support that theory. With the snow having lightly dusted the ground that day, there would have been tire tracks or footprints, but there was absolutely nothing. Nobody had visited the farm that day. This they knew for sure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How long was it before, I don't know if you know this, how long was it that she was missing before her son found her?
They don't give
You know
a
what I'm
time.
asking?
Yeah, I know. Like how long it should be. They don't give a time. And I'm not even sure how that all transpired.
Okay. Well, I was thinking if it happened the night before and then it lightly snowed afterwards, but.
No, I definitely got the impression it was the same day thing.
Okay.
So again, Todd is interviewed and the detective starts going pretty hard at him, telling him that they knew he was responsible for Amy's death. They even brought up that they had proof that he wasn't happy with Amy because she was no longer pulling her weight on the farm. This had been confirmed through texts that Todd had sent to a friend saying exactly that. Then they brought up the affairs, but even after 2 hours of direct accusation, Todd never cracked under the pressure, and they did not get a confession from him. Todd even claimed that he knew nothing about the second affair, and that he believed that all had been well between him and his wife after they had worked through the first one. Detectives knew that Todd had known about the second affair, but couldn't prove it, and with his airtight alibi of his son claiming that his dad was never out of his sight, the day ended with Todd back on his farm, a free man.
Well, you know those farmers are pretty tough cookies.
Amy was described as a vivacious person who worked very hard and helped out a lot on the farm. So I just want to comment and say, with my job being so physical, I work pretty hard, but I can't even imagine how hard a woman has to work when during this marriage, for years, she's an ER nurse with all the trauma in those long, crazy hours. She's a wife and a mother of 3 young children. And then her husband expects her to work on their farm as well. That's way too much. This woman was a saint. No wonder she needed an escape from her reality.
Yeah, I'll give her that one. That is a lot of work.
Jeez. I mean, she must have been so much happier out of the house than in the house.
The traumas at work were probably a breeze.
Right. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Todd, though, regarding his work ethic. He, too, was known as a very hard worker, a good father, and admired for his successful farm business. But some of his neighbors said that Todd had a cruel streak. He was known to have a scary, dark side. There were lots of stories about his cruelty to his animals on the farm and things that were done to those animals in front of his own children. Many of his farming friends had turned their backs on him after hearing these extremely disturbing stories.
I just can't with that. First, you're going to be cruel to animals and then do it in front of your children. I can't.
Yeah.
You can be as hardworking as you want, but no. I'm off Team Todd for the moment.
Oh, yeah. Completely unacceptable. That's horrifying. Amy had for some time told her closest friends that she did want to leave him, but due to this dark side, she was scared that if he found out that she wanted to leave or that she was involved in another affair, he would kill her. If I ever saw a person that I loved abusing animals in any way, that would be it for me. And it would take everything within me not to sock them up as I was about to leave. And no, I don't condone violence, but some people have it coming.
Oh, you sock them up, left and right. I'll help you.
Heck yeah.
I'll hold your luggage. Get him.
You hold them down and I'll sock them up.
That's right.
No problem. That's what friends are for.
Right. Defensive little animals. Really?
Ugh, I just hate that. Children, animals, anything helpless, the elderly, oof.
I'm not
My
having
dark side comes out.
I had visions you wearing the Darth Vader helmet.
Todd, I'm coming for you.
You're just full of voices today, aren't you?
You're giving me opportunity. I'm just taking them and running.
You can't let a few go by.
Our listeners don't want that. They want all the voices within me, all the personalities.
Okay, Sybil.
Diving deeper into Todd Mullis, the investigators carried out search warrants and seized all electrical devices from the farm. Looking for evidence, they found Google searches where somebody had requested multiple searches, such as, and just wait till you hear these. First one, what did the Aztecs do to cheating spouses? I was a little caught off guard by this one because why the Aztecs?
That is really random. Maybe he's trying to make some kind of statement.
It was super bizarre. Next one, placement of the organs in the body. Now, this one was interesting because when you see the photos of Amy's punctures on her back, they did not line up straight like the 4 tines of a corn rake would have. They were high and low, with only like 3 of them maybe lining up, even though it was determined that she was impaled at least twice. Now, if someone is trying to hit certain organs to ensure death, this search makes perfect sense. The next one, 16 facts about cheating women. This one I thought was kind of laughable. It's ridiculous and sounds more like a Cosmo magazine article. I mean, who's providing these facts?
I wonder if there was a quiz with it.
Right. Do you fall into this category? The next one, once a cheater, always a cheater. So, this may be true a lot, but not always.
And generally, if you do it the first time, one of 2 things are going to happen. You're either going to be ultimately feeling guilty and not wanting to do it again, or you'll do better the second time.
That's right. Scared straight, or you're really good at this.
You're perfecting it.
The next one. Did ancient cultures kill adulterers? What's with the ancient culture's obsession? It sounds like he was searching for maybe like a ritualistic type killing.
Was he trying to blame it on some type of cult that came through his farm or something?
I don't know, but I got a vision of him like holding her body over like the entrance to a volcano and just like, it's like, what the hell, Todd? The next one, the thrill of the kill. Now, this is just getting depraved because that's just evil. The next one, killing unfaithful women. This is all so disturbingly focused on just women when there are just as many men who cheat.
If not more.
Right? Who do you think we're cheating with? Most of us.
That's true. What percentage of the time are they also married?
Exactly. So yeah, very woman focused. Okay, so this next search, punishment is 18 months for killing cheating wife. I was like, huh? I didn't understand this one. So I actually did this search. And geez, I am so sorry that I did. In a nutshell, in 1994, a husband who admitted to shooting his wife in the head with a hunting rifle after catching her in bed with another man was only given an 18-month sentence. And the judge, let me say it again, and the judge said that, quote, such a killing was understandable, end quote. In fact, he didn't want to give this killer husband any prison time, but he had no choice. Quote, I seriously wonder how many men married for 5 or 4 years would have the strength to walk away without inflicting some corporal punishment. End quote. said Judge Robert E. Cahill. What the? I have no words for this last one. Just let that sink in for a minute.
Wait, what? Because cheating and murder is on the exact same level? They are the same thing, right? Am I getting that right?
Apparently, according to Judge Robert E. Cahill, and can I say that name again? Robert E. Cahill.
Judge.
Judge.
The other thought, I wonder what the judge would have done if it was a woman that killed her husband. Just saying.
Oh, I can almost guarantee that Judge Robert E. Cahill would have been doing an off with her head.
What was his name again?
Robert E. Cahill, in case you didn't catch it the first 12 times.
Judge.
Judge Robert E. Cahill. How horrifying, right? Is it just me?
Yeah, no. Just that first little quote basically saying, what did he say again? Something about it's understandable.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally understandable. I mean, who couldn't not shoot their wife in the head with a hunting rifle?
She cheated, so she has to die. I mean, that's same. It's the same thing.
Duh. So, I know. I looked it up and I went, oh, God, now I got to put this in there because this is horrifying. All right, deep breath. Regather. Todd Mullis was arrested and held behind bars for 7 months before his trial began, all the while claiming his innocence. His trial was shown on local TV, and believe it or not, he actually began to gain a lot of support from people online, mainly women. Because I guess in farm world, he was considered a catch. Blondie is just shaking her head.
In disbelief.
Crazy. He had lost a significant amount of weight while in jail, which did actually worry the prosecution team because it made him look better and a bit younger, and he already had a lot of female support. And now that he's available, I mean, who doesn't want a chance at a hot, newly single farmer who may have just kind of, sort of, possibly impaled his wife with a corn rake? You know, nothing some open-minded woman couldn't easily get past. Pshaw.
And remember hybristophilia?
Yeah, I do.
That's when women are attracted to the criminal types. They love the violent and the convicted criminals, and they just have the goal to change that person because, they can.
Well, yeah, and if they don't, I mean, how exciting to be with a guy who can shove a pitchfork in his wife's back.
He's so strong.
I want to touch those muscles.
All right, bye-bye.
So there was even some random woman from New York, and yeah, I'm calling out New York, who was interviewed and admitted that she began supporting Todd because she had a little bit of a crush on him. And since he was cute, he had to be innocent, right? This type of crap makes women look beyond stupid. But this lady started a Facebook page, and she called it Todd Mullis is Innocent. I'm surprised she didn't call it He's Way Too Cute to Be a Pitchfork Murderer, right, ladies? And who starts a He's Innocent Facebook page before you even hear the case? Is it me?
Like you said, this type of crap lowers a woman's IQ. And unfortunately, it's not just the one bad apple. We all get lumped together.
That's right. It is really unfortunate because this is disgusting. And this Facebook page had over 400 members, mostly women, rallying on behalf of Todd for his freedom. And this rando woman spoke about Todd as if she knew him very well.
She never met him, right?
No, of course not. No, she didn't even know who he was till he was on TV for murdering his wife. And you got to be pretty lonely to make up an intimate relationship with a corn rake murderer. Just saying.
But he's cute.
I know, he's adorbs. So, ugh. Todd Mullis was accused of murder in the first degree and was facing life in prison. Surprisingly, Todd's own defense lawyer opened by stating that, quote, it was obvious that Amy had not fallen on the corn rake. So now it wasn't a matter of who killed Amy. It was a matter of, did Todd kill Amy? End quote. So in this opening statement, Todd's attorney contradicted his own client's theory of what had happened to his wife. He said Todd had been wrong. Amy had been murdered.
Way to back your client.
I know, right? This seems so crazy to me, but I'm guessing the attorney knew they could easily prove that she didn't fall on the fork twice. So he had to find another plausible theory.
I can't even imagine her falling on it once, let alone the whole twice situation.
Yeah. And she gets up and goes, oh, that wasn't deep enough. Boom, let's do this again. Do over. Ah, ridiculous. Now, in order to show Todd's motive, the prosecution had to show that Todd was fully aware that Amy had planned to leave him. One of Amy's friends testified that Amy had told her that after talking with Todd about a potential divorce, Todd had responded with, quote, I have worked on this farm since I was 11 years old, and I will not give it up, end quote. This particular friend then warned Amy by saying, quote, he is going to kill you, end quote.
It sounds like this woman actually knew Todd and knew what he was capable of to make that statement compared to Facebook floozy.
Yeah, it does. It does sound that way to me too as well. When Jerry, Amy's current boyfriend, testified, he said that Amy had told him that if Todd ever found out about their affair, that she would, quote, disappear. But the most important witness for the trial was Todd's son, Tristan. When Tristan testified for the court, he ended up changing his story. He said that at one point he had left his dad alone to go get a drink of water. So there was a period of time he was not with his dad. When asked how long he thought he was away, Tristan could not say. This was devastating testimony for the defense. And I feel so bad for this kid. He does understand that he's putting a nail in his dad's coffin by changing his story, because he says he doesn't want to do anything to hurt his dad. But he does have to tell the truth. And on a side note, his dad deserves a fast pass to hell for the irreparable damage he put his son through just to cover his own sorry butt. He's repulsive.
His dad was his hero, and he wanted to be just like his dad. And his hero now is lying about the fact that he killed his mother.
Yeah, and now he's stuck with a father who sacrificed his son to all this drama just to cover his own butt.
Yeah.
I mean, how truly sad. And these three kids were adorable. I've never seen such cute kids in my life.
Do you know how old the other two were?
They were quite a bit younger. If Tristan was 13 in the photo that I saw, I would guess his siblings were a few years younger. Maybe like the next one might have been like 7 or 8. And then the one after that, maybe 5 or 6. Very young family.
Poor kids.
I know. Really sad. But even with Tristan changing his story, there was still some doubt as to whether Todd would have had enough time to kill Amy and get back to the barn before Tristan saw him. So the trial went on for several days. Todd even took the stand, saying that his son may have been gone just a matter of seconds before he returned. And during that brief moment, he never left the barn. Of course he's going to say that.
Yeah, throwing his poor son under the bus after he just told the truth.
Exactly. They have a picture and they show the layout of the farm and the buildings. It would have taken this kid way more than seconds to get to where he needed to go. It was quite a distance from where they were to, I'm assuming, getting into the house.
And was his son in the courtroom hearing the testimony of his father? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. And when the son actually did testify and change his story, he did it remotely.
Oh, okay, good. So his son didn't have to see this nonsense his father was spewing.
Or didn't have to look at him and feel bad. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Todd was asked about all of those specific ways to kill your wife Google searches, he denied doing all of them. Even though it was just him, Amy, and the 3 children in the house that would have had access to their computers. And when I was watching this, he had such a dumb look on his face throughout this questioning. He's really not a very good actor.
And if you're going to do these searches, why doesn't anybody ever erase their history?
He doesn't seem like he was very smart about this whole thing. I mean, he should have never been on the stand to begin with.
No, that and texts. People never delete their texts. What's going on
They
there?
never do. It's like, we've heard so much about this stuff nowadays. Clear your computer, dump the text.
And yes, forensic accountants or I forget what they call them, forensic something. They can deep dive and get into things, but, at least try. Make a little effort.
Yeah. Make a little effort is right, because, he wasn't too smart of a cookie. But then, this is my absolute favorite part of this story. With only 1 day left for his trial, right before the wrap-up, a tip was received by someone who was just watching this case on TV. And they decided to go out of their way to listen and analyze the 911 call made by Todd. After this person listened closely to this tape, they discovered something that had obviously been missed by everybody. So they sent an email to the prosecutor telling them to listen again to the 911 tape. And when they did, they were absolutely stunned. On the 911 tape, while Todd was performing CPR on his dying or possibly already dead wife, he was breathing really hard and making sounds while trying to perform the compressions. But under his breath, when amplified, you could clearly hear him say, quote, "cheating whore." As you continue to listen to the tape, a few seconds later, he says, quote, "go to hell, cheating whore," end quote.
Whoa.
Right? Is this not one of the best twists ever? This tipster is a superhero and should be issued a cape, seriously.
The 911 cape.
Exactly.
And when you said earlier he was mumbling under his breath, I am so glad that it came back around and exactly with what he said. Came back around and apparently bit Todd in his seat of his overalls.
When the prosecution plays the tape while Todd is on the stand, he claims not to hear those specific words and doesn't even know what he was saying. But you can see through his expression that he is also shocked. Like, he smirks a little bit, trying to play it down, but he's turning white as a ghost. What an idiot.
Understatement.
Now, of course, his Facebook group supporters go off. The rando lady from New York even says it was a cheap shot by the prosecutor.
To do their job?
Yeah. How is proof a cheap shot that bonehead Todd provided? A cheap shot? Makes no sense.
It's proof. It's not a cheap shot.
It's called proof. And I'm sorry, he's cute, but he's a murderer.
He's an idiot murderer.
Oh, God. I think they should have put him with her. That would have been punishment for the both of them. Marry those two off. The lady says that he was saying, now she's of course giving her opinion, he was saying the word "for," like the number 4, almost like he was counting compressions.
Instead of saying whore? He's saying
instead
four?
of saying cheating whore, he was saying 4.
Cheating for? Because that makes sense.
He was definitely not saying 4. And then at some point, she says he was saying cold, which doesn't even sound the same. We can all clearly hear what he's saying. And not only that, but those words and emotions fit the situation perfectly, with him being angry enough to kill her for cheating. You know, some people are so desperate to be right when they are blatantly wrong that it's just sad, but still amusing for the rest of us.
Well, when he was acquitted, they were going to run off and get married. Of course, that was after they met first, but yeah, they were going to run off. She was trying to get her happily ever after.
And she was so far gone, I don't even think they needed to meet. She would have probably married him online.
Probably.
She was a whack job. The defense played on sympathy for Todd and even tried to use his good looks in his favor. But in the end, Todd was found guilty of murder in the 1st degree. His sentence was life in prison with no opportunity for parole. He was one day away from possibly getting away with the vicious and brutal murder of his wife, but he was so hateful and greedy that his emotions got the best of him, and he essentially caught himself.
That's right. He was on the last day of the trial.
Yep. The next day was wrap-up day, and somebody caught him. He caught himself. So to all those wannabe detectives out there who can see things with fresh eyes and hear things with fresh ears, keep up the good work.
You go out there.
Right. Get it.
Well, thank you for that story. It was very interesting and not corny at all.
You know what's funny? I never even expected a corny corn joke. Okay. That's how into this I was.
And I'm so glad I could deliver for you.
You never fail. Yeah, I liked this story. I hope the listeners enjoyed it. It certainly was filled with a lot of twists and turns.
I enjoyed it, and I'm sure they did as well. So thank you again for bringing it.
You're so welcome.
And we'd like everyone out there to take care and remember to let your grimaginations run wild.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
We just want to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send in your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at grimwitwithdimwits, Twitter at grimwitwithdimwits, and Facebook, Grimwit with Dimwits. Join us every Monday for new episodes, and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
We would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review. 5-star ratings go a long way and would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.